is that your father would lose to either Clinton or Tsongas if the election were held today. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't really matter. Polls are totally irrelevant this time of year. My dad was down by 18 points to the last candidate they threw at him in 1988, and he won. This is, as I said, this is very, very early. We're going to do everything that is necessary to build the coalition that will be a winning one. And over time, I think people will realize that James is right about one thing, and that is that the candidate that advocates the status quo will be the losing candidate. And I believe that my dad will be able to show that he isn't the candidate of status quo, that he is the only one that can fight Congress, which is the ultimate institution of status quo in this country. And his proposals on health care reform, on judicial reform, on economic reform, all of these things, I think, will make sense for American people.
Jeb, one question about the campaign and your father's tactics. He said today he's going to be a nice guy from now on. Why doesn't he, he did, I think, something to that effect. Why doesn't he take off the gloves on Buchanan's race question? Why not hit Pat Buchanan in the racial area, the Jewish area, the black area, the gay area? These are human beings.
Sure,
Buchanan has made public statements about them. Senator Danforth here last week said he doesn't want the vote of people who think that way.
Well, first of all, my dad doesn't even mention Buchanan in any of his speeches.
Yeah, why not?
I don't think he has to. Well, he has people maybe like me who can do that, and others. Pat Buchanan is not the problem for George Bush. He has not won a single primary. He's not going to win a single primary. He's not going to get a delegate in most of the states in the South. The problem is the fall, and to antagonize the guy, I think, probably doesn't make sense. Now,
yeah, but you don't want racists in the Republican Party. You don't want that. You wouldn't want a racist vote.
No, and exactly right. And I think that there are people in the Bush campaign that have spoken out directly against Buchanan for what he said. And my dad, in every speech that he gave when he was in Florida, spoke out very forcefully against racism and anti-Semitism and the the homophobic tactics that are being used more and more in our society, and that's on the record. It was on CNN, I think.
Well, I think one of the things that he said that's telling, and I have a lot of respect for Jeb as a statewide campaign manager. He said, you know, George Bush is the only person that fight with Congress. This nation wants a leader. They want someone to lead Congress. They want someone to lead the nation. And he says, well, you know, have people like me to speak out against Pat Buchanan. This country needs somebody like Bill Clinton at every stop talks about the need to pull this country together.
Speaking of Clinton, has he gotten, in your opinion, fair press?
Well, look, running for president is a big endeavor. Being president's a big endeavor.
But he's
the press, well, we tease him. Mickey Canner, who's our campaign chairman, called him a Timex candidate one time. Says he takes a licking, but he keeps on ticking. And this is a tough
have they been
business.
on his case?
Well, sure they've been on his case.
Rightfully so?
Well, I don't want to say it's rightfully so, but when you run for president of the United States, it's a big undertaking. You have to expect, and the reason that the press gets on his case, of course, they've been wrong in a lot of things, but I'm really not here to bash the press, and I think Bill Clinton would be the first person to tell you that, you know, he's got to move on and tell American people where he wants to take him. His argument in America is not with the press, it's with the status quo.
But the press tells the public. I mean, the press presents...
But again, but the public understands that, and Bill Clinton is running for president not because he's opposed to the press, but he's opposed to the status quo. He's opposed to the brain-dead policies of both political parties, wants to bring fundamental change to Washington, believes that we need leadership in this country, that this country is falling apart, it needs to be pulled back together again. And sure, I think the press, in some instances, has gone overboard, but that's not the fundamental reason that Bill Clinton is running for president. That's not the fundamental reason that I'm working for him, and that's not the rationale behind our campaign that the press is treated us unfairly. We want to bring change to this country.
Let me get a break, come back and start to include your phone calls for Jeb Bush and James Carville. And then an incredible story. This is Larry King Live tomorrow night. Senator Phil Gramm of Texas, Senator Bill Graham of Florida, and Fred Malek of the White House. All that tomorrow night. Back with more calls after this.
Wake up. Call 1-900.
North Carolina, hello.
Hello. I have a question for Mr. Bush. And first, I would like to say that the Congress is the people. And so that's something that it seems to be everybody forgets.
What's the question?
The people speak through the Congress. And I'm one of the people who has never benefited from any of your father's years. I have gone down even though I have a master's degree.
Ma'am, do you have a question?
I make less than 6.
Ma'am, I can't take a whole personal history. We need questions. Mount Vernon, Illinois, hello.
Hello, Mr. Carville.
Yes, sir.
If Governor Clinton is nominated, what are the main issues he'll use against Bush?
Well, I think more than using the issues against Bush, I think he wants to talk about fundamentally retraining the American workforce, about education, about the fact that this country needs an economic strategy to compete again. I think he's going to talk about how he wants to bring this country together. And I think he'll quite fairly point out that we've had the lowest GNP growth in this nation since World War II under George Bush.
Senator Tsongas to strongly endorse the ticket, and he will do the same as Tsongas and Brown as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Before we get back to more calls, there's a story in Time magazine today, Jeb, that the re-election team has begun to exhibit a Dukakis-like tendency to botch easy wins, and there's a report of chaos in the camp. What do you know about that from the Florida end?
That's all inside baseball nonsense. American people don't care about the nuts and bolts of this campaign.
Is it going smoothly?
I think it's going smoothly. We've been given the resources necessary to do our part of the job here in Florida. And more importantly, my dad's message is getting out, and I think we're going to do quite well here.
How about Ed Rollins' suggestion that he take a few days off, think about what he wants to do in a second term, and then come back with a plan?
Well, I think what you're going to find is probably a much more aggressive posture as it relates to Congress after March 20th, assuming that they do not pass his economic stimulus package, the short-term one. And when that happens, you might find that the edges get a little more sharpened, and the focus will be clearer for the American people to know that the Congress are behaving like dinosaurs, entrenched status quo that refuse to change and refuse to act when people are suffering.
North Potomac, Maryland. Let me get another call. North Potomac, Maryland, with James Carville and Jeb Bush. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you're on. Go ahead.
I have for Mr. Bush. The president is a formidable campaigner and a tireless campaigner, and he, like in any other in the race, the candidate is the best. If you got the best candidate, you're going to win. It seems like until this past week or so, 10 days, we weren't getting the president out enough. Why haven't you gotten him out? Because he's very convincing.
Well, I liked it when he came here. It really turned on all the people working in our campaign, and we had very large crowds. There's something about having a president in your community as well that may give us an added advantage. He's got work to do, you know, so he can't do this full time. He's got to be president, and he's got to lead, which he's doing day in and day out. But he'll be out on the road, and he loves to campaign. He loves to get outside of Washington and hear some good news once in a while.
Can you campaign through television only?
No. I mean, no.
You can't, even though it is the dominant media.
Well, it's a way that you can reach the most voters, but I mean, you also got to go out and meet voters, and people have to see you and feel you. And when people watch television, they have to see you meeting and reacting with voters. I mean,
or they have to see you at the airport, shaking hands.
Yeah, and they want to see you in seniors' homes. They want to see you in classrooms. They want to see you at the work site and that type of stuff. I mean, people understand that unless you're from New Hampshire, you really don't get a chance to meet everybody, get a chance to meet the president.
New Hampshire, you meet everybody.
3 times.
Vienna, Virginia, hello.
I have a quick question for Mr. Carville.
Yes, ma'am.
Governor Clinton and Senator Tsongas seem to have a real good relationship at the beginning of the campaign. I'm wondering, will this tension between them in recent weeks reduce the chances or possibility of a Clinton-Tsongas or Tsongas-Clinton ticket?
Well, I don't know anything about a ticket, and that's really not my end of the thing. But, you know, running for president's a tough thing, and I think that they start out friends. I think deep down inside they're probably still friends, but it's a competitive thing, and they two competitive folks, and you know, when you're in the middle of something like this, and there's a lot of high stakes,
people get a little opponent. Do you?
No, I don't think. I've never hated anybody. I hope, but sure, you run against somebody, you want to beat them, and it gets real competitive. But in the end, I think both Governor Clinton and Senator Tsongas understand that the real name of the game here, the real thing that we want to do is to try to beat Jeb's dad in November, and don't you get down the ball out.
Jeb, when Pat Buchanan gives you one of those jabs, don't you get really mad, especially in a double case with yours, a candidate and a father? There you go.
Well, that's that may distinguish me from James, is that this is his profession. He does a good job at it, and I'm doing this because I love my father, and I think he's the best man for the country, of course. But yeah, I don't like it when anybody says something bad about my daddy. Of course not. But I've kind of gotten thicker skin over the years. He's, you know, people that complain about getting press coverage on the other side, you know, welcome to the big leagues. George Bush gets hammered every day by all sorts of people from the right and from the left, and it's part of the game. It bothers me more for my kids. You know, they've had some great thrills being the grandchildren of the president, but they don't like it at all, and I have to kind of leash them back in when these things come out, because they want to go take it, you know, physically.
So when Pat Buchanan says something particularly stealth-wielding, as Pat can do so well, that's painful. That's painful to you.
Well, you know, if I didn't know that for him this is a game, that he's very good at the turn of the phrase, it would matter more. But I know that this is something.
Just a game?
I think he enjoys doing this. He seems to be having a great time. Not that he's going to be the nominee, and not that he's going to be president, but he's enjoying himself immensely. And so, you know.
Do you think he's looking to 96, as some say?
I think there's a subplot here of 96 campaigning on both sides. You bet.
San Diego, hello.
San Diego calling for Jeb Bush.
Yep.
Why hasn't President Bush addressed the issues coming out on Neil Bush? Or perhaps Jeb Bush could enlighten us?
What is the issue, ma'am?
What's the issue?
The issues of what I'm reading about Neil Bush and the savings and loans and so forth.
Well, that issue, if it's an issue in the campaign, is pretty well done for. My brother didn't do anything wrong. He hasn't been accused of doing anything wrong by any court, and his life has been smeared by being in the public eye, and it's quite a shame that happened. That's not an issue in any campaign.
We're going to take a break, come back, and continue with some more phone calls, and then meet an extraordinary American and a top CNN correspondent who'll tell us about him. Tomorrow night, Fred Malek is here from the White House, Senator Phil Gramm from Texas, and Senator Bob Graham of Florida. All will be with us on Larry King Live on Super Tuesday night. And, of course, you'll get extensive coverage where else but on CNN. We'll be right back with James Carville and Jeb Bush. I'm Larry King. Don't go away. The Bush Quail Florida campaign, and James Carville, general campaign strategist for Governor Bill Clinton. Back to the phone calls. Winter Park, Florida. Hello.
Yeah, Jeb, Pat Buchanan advocates a freeze on federal spending. Why hasn't George Bush frozen federal spending?
He has advocated in this budget a freeze on federal spending and a freeze on federal employment. And so, you know, I think everybody wishes that the government be smaller, and you'll be seeing, I think, some initiatives, continued initiatives to try to get through the Congress additional measures to make that happen. But he has proposed that in this budget.
Why are you smiling, Jim?
No, I did know that President Bush advocated a freeze on Social Security COLAs and Medicare and things like that. That's news
on
to me.
Discretionary
Oh,
spending,
okay.
James.
All right. I'm just teasing you, Jeb. I know you're down there in Florida. Just
Canoga Park, California.
I can't see you, so I don't know what you're saying.
Canoga Park, California. Hello.
Yes, Larry, I cannot believe that on the eve of Super Tuesday that all you can find is this one Democrat to represent, you know, a Democratic candidate. What happened to Senator Songas's representative?
This is not a campaign evening. This is not a debate. This is a discussion about tomorrow's election.
Yeah, but you are legitimatizing these two candidates.
Are they illegitimate? I must tell you, sir, I mean, I don't choose the guests. That's not a cop-out, but these are two outstanding guests. And we're discussing the campaign as a whole. Senator Songas might be on this program Wednesday night. Okay, we always try to be fair. But we like to have general candidates on, and then the night before an election, we're just giving you an analysis of what's going to come up tomorrow. Tomorrow night, Senator Graham is here, and Senator Phil Gramm, and Senator Bob Graham, and Fred Malek. We expect to have all the candidates. We're going to give you thorough coverage